Alderman Dean, yes, no.
Okay, it's 8:30 and we'll get the work session started.
So this morning we wanted to give the full board an update from the EMS committee because we had a committee meeting and Eric and Maya were there and Dwight and Bill and I, and we put together the information that you received in the board packet. So I thought we'd just start with that. Just to kind of to get us in the right mindset as we talk about this. So when we met, we kind of broke it down into a few categories. Why the committee felt that the Sprint paramedic program, how it impacts the Grant County taxpayer. Obviously, we know it saves lives. But we also think it's important that we highlight other success stories that are happening here in Grant County and in our surrounding areas with the program. It has become a reliable resource for more than just the constituents. It's also a reliable resource for firefighters and law enforcement officers. Just last week or the week before, the unit helped in a mutual aid call in Ottertail County on a call to help be there in case responders got hurt. The time efficiency that we've seen with the Sprint paramedic program has been top notch. It's also helped bring access to care to a lot of rural residents that hasn't been available before. And we also feel it's important to highlight the fact that it's an asset to our area. It could be a reason why someone chooses to live here because we do have paramedic EMS services that can respond. The program has helped with a whole list of different kinds of incidences, from diabetic crises. So this fall, some farm-related incidences such as, the combine and dryer fires, but also auger injuries, respiratory things, cardiac arrest. We actually have 2 documented cases right here in Grant County of Grant County citizens that their lives were saved. And they're here walking around in Grant County still today because of this program. So we thought we needed to start having conversations about what does the future look like if in the event the state puts a sunset to the state program of the Sprint paramedic program. There's 2 other areas in the state that are doing it, and we're not sure of their success or not, but we're really focusing on our local success. And right now, Grant County has appropriated $165,000 last year, and then again, it's on the preliminary budget for this year. So we talked about how we could utilize those funds. There's been lots of ideas in the past, and we've, research has been done about how the money can be used. And so we broke it down into 2 categories with our new idea of our EMS sustainability plan. And the 2 categories are large capital purchases, which would be ambulances. Right now, as of today, 2025, ambulances cost about $400,000 a piece. So we felt as a committee like having that rotating schedule to help fund ambulances for Hoffman, Ashby, and Lake Region to make sure we keep those viable resources a reality here in Grant County. And then the new idea that we put together as a committee, and Eric did a lot of the work is in a partnership agreement for services. So like a fees for services that would include calls for service, the program providing classes to local entities, and the program attending local events such as, one example would be like the fair. They go down to the rodeo and things like that, and they're there to have those community events. This partnership with a vendor, the vendor's commitment would be to employ the staff, provide space for the staff and the necessary equipment, and then to provide the training for the staff. And then those fees for services, so we can continue to have the services to go on calls, to offer classes, to attend our community events, would kind of be the full package of what that partnership agreement would look like. So when we talked about it, we talked about, again, the money that's been appropriated and how that might be used. And you know, we are just brainstorming and we wanted to bring these ideas to the full board, but, looking at $100,000 of that funding annually going to that rotating schedule for capital improvements with ambulances. And then the 65,000 annually looking at that partnership agreement, that fees for service. We feel this is really important to have a plan in place, so if the state program goes away, we can sustain and keep a local program here. It'll help with recruitment and retention of responders. Another really important factor, I think, for the full board to know is that surrounding areas with bigger communities are relying on our program. I think in the past, there was maybe a mentality that if we're short here, we can call on the bigger communities and they can come and help. They're experiencing the same shortages that we are in staff. And so what we're finding is a lot of time we are getting called to go and support them. During the daytime hours, many of the responders that live in volunteer Grant County work outside of Grant County. So during those daytime hours, we have a shortage of responders in Grant County. So this Sprint program has really helped, you know, during those hours. There's a public expectation that these life-saving resources are available when they call 911. Historically, when you call 911, I think we would think 5 to 10 minutes, somebody's gonna be at your front door to be able to help you. We wanna keep that expectation a reality. Currently, we have paramedics that live in our county and they're available anywhere from 16 to 20 hours a day, which is an extremely important resource to Grant County constituents. The Sprint model allows the paramedics to get to the scene much faster, and that's why we're seeing these life-saving efforts really pay off. And this program, like I said earlier, has proven already to save lives because we have 2 Grant County constituents that are currently alive today because of the program. So we thought it was really important to highlight that. And then on the last page of the packet, we put together some stats. There's also stats, and these guys, I'm gonna let them talk about it now and I'll be quiet, but the ones in the packet are for just Lake Region, but we also have stats from Ashby and Hoffman about how this program has been utilized in just this year. So I'll turn it over to you guys to kind of fill in the blanks there.
You did a really good
Yeah,
job.
you just summed it up.
You just want the sticky note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your color graphic.
Yeah. You have the numbers so that, I guess, you see the numbers for the Lake Region calls, but also, Ashby had a total of, as of 11/17, 261 calls. Which of that, 111 were in Grant County. Obviously, Ashby has territory that's not in Grant County, but, and then 7 mutual aids and, the Hoffman calls, I don't know, I see Hoffman calls, is there, Hoffman had 87 calls so far in 2025. And if you see at the bottom, you see the intercept on your sheet, there's 14 intercepts with the Sprint Medic with Hoffman and 12 with Ashby, and then 93 with Lake Region, which obviously they work pretty closely together, so they go pretty routinely, especially on the weekends. But most every day there's a paramedic that's going out with the Lake Region crew. But anyway, it just goes to show that this is being utilized really well in the county, and it's benefiting the entire county, not just a central piece that seems like sometimes people think that, oh, Elba Lake has all the resources, but these resources are countywide, and because of the vehicle that's provided with that, they can get there a lot better than, somebody's ready to go versus somebody having to go get a vehicle and then going. So it's a big difference in time. So.
First of all, yeah, go ahead.
I got a question, Mr. Chair. So you guys are tracking, you're going out with an ambulance, coming back with nobody in it? Are you
Yeah.
tracking any of that? Now, where is that at?
Well, I guess I can only track for the Barlow and Sterling.
Okay.
So our own service, we have, 43 non-transports
Right,
throughout up until today.
okay,
Which is about normal, it's a little bit higher. You know, it used to be about that 25, but now as people are staying in their homes longer, because of healthcare costs at these organizations, long-term care centers, they're electing to stay at home. And then we're getting those falls, those issues that we have to come and support. And then we don't need a transplant. So you're seeing more and more of those. And those create burnout, you know, because it's always at inopportune times in the evenings and nights where people are sleeping and then they have to get up and then, you know, obviously they're going to work the next day. So with this sprint paramedic thing, if it evolves, we wouldn't need to per se call those volunteers out. If we start to see a benefit and a shift of working together, saying, we'll send the sprint paramedic and a law enforcement officer if they're not busy, we'll take care of that instead of waking up all of our firemen and things like that for a non-medical call. It's gonna decrease burnout and it's just gonna make everybody's life much easier.
more efficient.
Right, more efficient, yeah.
So, and again, those no whatever you wanna call them, transfers or whatever, you can build a state
Well, so
for those.
for a grant, for this coming year, there's
For
gonna be
26.
that, right, there's gonna
Yep.
be that grant for, I think 26 and 27. But again, that's gonna be gone, right?
Yeah,
So it's a very, very small chunk of money when you put it over the 600 and some ambulance services across the state. They're all gonna want a chunk of piece of the pie. That's really not gonna do a whole lot for us. The biggest part financially, I don't think that's any of our major problems, to a point. Yes, we need capital expenses, but operational stuff isn't that big of a deal. We can make that, but with the funds that we create by charging. I don't wanna go down the path of saying, hey, you fell, I'm gonna charge you for me to come and pick you up, when they're already paying law enforcement and fire and all this other stuff for taxes. This isn't really what we need to get into, because then
Right.
people aren't gonna call 911.
right,
Half the time, people call on behalf of somebody else. I fall on the street, I'm not hurt, I just need some good Samaritan to help me up because I can't get up, and now you're gonna bill them $250. No, I think it's a bad thing to go down, and if we look at it and we just spread those costs towards everybody, instead of billing those people that probably are low income anyways, I think we'll have a better success story in the end. So that's kind of that. The next thing I kind of want to shadow is the 16 to 20 hours a day that we have coverage. We're still, myself, Carrie, Jake, we're giving the county the rest of those hours, right? So Carrie and I are on call 24 hours a day. Jake is there. We're supplementing when they're not getting paid. There's not very many entities or jobs where you work 8 hours a day and then you volunteer for the next 16 hours a day, right? It just doesn't happen. So keeping us, the people that are working in this entity as EMS at home working in our community is only gonna benefit us, right? If now Carrie and those guys go away and start working in Fergus or Alec, they're gonna be reluctant to come back at night and say, I wanna help out my community, when there was no support in the beginning. So right now, if we continue to look at how many paramedics we have, 18 years ago, we had 0 paramedics. Now we have myself, Jake, Sanowski, Carrie, and Travis. There's a handful of us. Not that our EMS or not that our EMTs are bad care, but once you get to a level of acuity, those EMTs cannot take care of that patient, whether it's severe respiratory distress, some cardiac arrest stuff, major traumas. Their level of expertise is now they're a volunteer, and you need those professionals that have the experience and have the tools in your bag to take care of those patients, because we're so rural that you're dealing with these trauma patients. The golden hour rule, I think almost everybody's heard that. You want them to a definitive place, a level 1 trauma center, a level 2 within an hour. That time is chewed up right in our own county. you're 20 minutes away from an ambulance down by Hoffman. So now you have that 20 minutes, you're taking care of them for 25, 30 minutes. You're already pushing that envelope without good care, without IVs, without managing these patients, their airway and things like that. The, the, the likelihood of survival is just dropping every minute, right? So having a higher level of care is just, in my opinion, as a taxpayer, something that I really want in this community, so.
See, we know, like those falls or those
Yeah.
non-transport. If they're seniors and is it, does Medicare compensate that? I wonder?
We don't know, yeah, so they will pay, at some point, a small stipend for those. But again, when people get bills, even if they don't necessarily have to pay for it, they cringe, they think they're a burden on the system. I just don't think it's a very good. You don't know if they have Medicare, right? I can't ask you, do you have insurance? That's illegal. So if you start billing people, there's gonna be people without insurance, there's gonna be people with, some, low insurance or, where you just don't know. And I just don't wanna get into that battle of picking and choosing and trying to figure out, is that really the problem? Is $250, so take 250 times 40, what's that? I'm not good with math, right? Anybody?
10,000.
What?
10,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so 10 grand, is it enough? So maybe we get half of that, is $5,000 worth it for somebody to not call 911? For somebody, I just don't think that's the issue. The issue is we don't have enough responders, in my opinion. And how are we gonna, continue to operate at a high level, and function together, right? I think we're gonna have to start figuring out working together. Hoffman, Elbow Lake and Ashby are gonna have to start coming together. We may have to, like you guys are talking, I see it in the paper that you're trying to figure out how we're gonna mold things together, putting Maya in as a leader in the maintenance world as well. If we want all of these,
Efficiencies.
yes, you're gonna have to do multi-role functions, right? So now Carrie's a sprint paramedic. Is every day truly busy for her? Probably not. So now why don't we work with the county per se and say, hey, why isn't she going out on these non-emergent law enforcement officer, things like a dog complaint? And she works alongside of our sheriff's department and says, she can take care of some of these issues, or works with Maya and says, hey, Maya has some emergency preparedness stuff that he needs taken care of. She can take care of some of that. I think we have to dual role people, soon in Grant County to keep all the services that we need. It's just gonna cost us too much, and that's what's gonna have to happen with EMS, and I don't know, I think this is the start of it. Right now, we're pretty much taking care of all of Hoffman's day calls, or not, I shouldn't say taking care of them. We're supplementing them heavily during the day, which is fine, as long as because it's not really Lake Region's responsibility at the end of the day. But we want to work with them and we want to keep them going, as long as possible. And Ashby's gonna have some issues too, once their top 5 guys retire in the next few years. Cause then none of us live in or work in Ashby. There's just absolutely nobody that works in Ashby anymore. It's gonna be tough to get responders here shortly.
Does fire bill, if you call for a fire call, do they bill the homeowner?
Not for medical yet.
Not for medical,
But how about for fire?
for fire, they do send a bill out. Now, I don't know what the rate of return on that billing is, but typically if there's a structure fire, grass fire, they'll do get a bill sent.
Is it like a $500 bill?
It's something like that.
Historically, Barrett has charged $500, but if the insurance doesn't pay it, they don't pursue it.
Right. Ashby has a set fee and then per hour. And if they use phone and stuff, they charge for that too.
Well, and that's the thing, you kind of answered my question, I'm just wondering, rather than apologize for a fee, maybe that's the concept, is, let's just say myself, if they're on Medicare, if there's a call, and we have supplement Blue Cross, and they'll pay $150 or $200, there's some way you bill us with the idea that, or you facilitate the insurance piece, maybe doesn't come out of our pocket,
Well,
but it comes out of the insurance we're buying's pocket, like the fire,
right,
using that model.
right. I'm not sure legally, ambulance services can say, I'm okay with, you know, like. It could probably get a little sticky if I charge you this much and you this much and we don't make, you know, like you get a bill for $1,000 and your insurance pays 500, you still are, you still do the $500, right? In the health field, right? Does that make sense?
No. Say that again?
Okay, so let's say what's that? Do
I see what you're saying.
Right, so,
You go to the doctor.
right,
You go to a doctor and the bill's $1,000 and your insurance pays 500, you still are on the hook for $500.
right. So if all of a sudden I say, well, you can't afford it, you're fine as an entity like Lake Region, you're gonna start having some issues probably there. I think it probably be if we look at it as a fee for service, we're taking care of the community, the taxpayers. You just spread that $5,000 over everybody, and now we take care of everybody that has these issues for years to come versus saying, you're gonna pay it all for the next person. I think it's probably a better system that way, but that's my opinion.
I guess, went back to once again, what Troy said about Bear, that it's $1,000 on insurance paid 500. You just write that 500 off, which we did collect 500,
Right,
because that's what we paid premium.
right. So you gotta look at who owns that service. It's a, in my opinion, it's a government entity owns it versus a nonprofit organization.
Same as fire though.
No, it's not.
Who owns the fire department?
The cities.
Well, that's a government organization.
Yeah, but we're not a government owned, right? So we have different,
Oh, I see what you mean.
right, so we have different services like, Morris is private. Ringgold is private. Perm is a, what's that group of, what's it called? Joint Powers. Ashby is city owned, Hoffman city owned, and we're hospital owned. So there's so many different ownerships of types of ownerships, it gets really confusing. If it was all government based, it's not a big deal. We don't even need to bill. We just figure out our cost and increase it by 10% and say, there's no bills at all. We'll just, everybody that gets a free ride, and not a free ride, but then it's, put all across the tax base. You could run it like that.
$165,000, we're kind of doing that.
Right, exactly, and that's my thought is it better to spread it across everybody in case everybody has an issue? Or go after people that are low income people that you're probably not gonna get the revenue anyways from? That's not my decision, that's up to you guys, but to me, it's probably a better solution, because one thing is, now if you fell leaving here and you called 911 on his behalf, and you didn't want it, should you have to pay?
Well, once again, if I'm asked, do you have insurance, like I wouldn't really.
But what if you don't?
Okay, well, that's my point, is if I don't, then there's no bill.
Well,
It's written
but
off.
that's, I don't think
So I
we can,
think today it was more like, this is like operational kind of
Right,
discussion, we're
right.
kind of getting in the weeds. And the committee hasn't gone down there yet, we came up with the concept of thinking it's important to look at how we could sustain this program. Why we think this program is important and how we could sustain it if the state program goes away.
Right.
And so we also, the committee talked about having a plan for the money that's been appropriated for EMS. And so today or this morning was just to share the concept idea of how we could see a local program moving forward with the appropriations with those two categories, the capital improvement for a rotating schedule of replacing ambulances, and then that, agreement of how we could offer, do the fees for services so we could have the Sprint program to go on calls to provide trainings and classes for local entities and how we can keep them involved with our community events that need these kinds of services as a whole, as a Grant County. So today was more about pitching that idea to the board to make sure that the board is in favor of moving forward in that direction and exploring it. And then all these different deep conversations about insurances and costs and things like that would be later in more of an operational kind of discussion.
Day-to-day operations.
Sure. I have a question.
Yep.
Okay, Eric, when is the Sprint paramedic, program gonna be, looked at by the state? How much more time do we have?
Well,
Where's their funding?
it's gonna sunset in 2027,
Right.
right? So we have a few years to, continue pulling data, seeing how much this program is working. We already know that it's worked because we've been doing it for 5 years prior to this. So in my opinion, it's working. Dwight's seen it because he's on the board. Our geographical area has a different, way we operate, so it works really well in our community versus up in Otter Tail. They're having some issues up there, but it just, like Tina said, this is more of a plan of if and when there's no funding for this Sprint paramedic, how are we gonna continue to keep this thing going? Because right now it's supplementing all of our services and giving back to our community.
Correct. I got a question, Mr. Chair. So would you rather, instead of billing for these dry runs,
Right.
would you rather have that revenue move into a Sprint program and then as a state, taking care of that Sprint program out here in rural Minnesota? Would you rather do it that way or bill for dry runs?
Well,
One, because it's gonna be one or the other. Sooner or later, something's gonna get vetted out there.
right, well, okay, so there's always great ideas down there to fund things that are gonna come and go constantly. Like, I can't bank on uncertainty. I can't continue to operate an ambulance service on unknowns and things like that.
Right.
So if we wanna take care of and what I don't like is this, when the state comes in and says, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we have to do. I would rather have local government saying, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna run our services, because this is what makes it work.
Yeah.
Dwight and I see this all the time at that Sprint paramedic. Now we're constrained to their rules and their obligations, which are terrible because they don't understand how we operate locally. I think all of us here today have always said small government wins, but yet if we don't do anything at the small level, we're gonna let them win because they're gonna step in and say, hey, you guys can't run it, we're gonna tell you how to run it, and then it's gonna be a really bad day for us. So if we start out with something small at a local level and say, this is what we want our funding for. Okay, this is how we're gonna operate our 3 services in our county, and then you tell them that, hey, by the way, now you guys can go and say, we need some funding for programs like this. We can push on to other counties and say, this is what needs to be done. But again, it has to be starting off, in my opinion, locally, small, and understand what we need as a community versus, it's different in Grant County or Otter Tail.
Yeah.
Their services are completely different. What they need is different than Grant County. So we can't always run it the same as the next guy over. We have to figure out how we're gonna move forward for the next 30 years. And that is what we feel is this program.
I think that's the biggest piece. I was just gonna say just quickly that this is about looking forward. We know that Hoffman already struggles. We know that in a few years Ashby's really gonna struggle. We know that right now we're currently in good shape and we're trying to set up the entire county to be in good shape going forward, not just, oh, it's good enough, right? You know, the old, it's good enough right now. That doesn't last very long and we can see it and it's already happening locally and it's happening all around us. They're all struggling and we're doing pretty well with what we have currently going. That's why we're trying to keep it and make sure that we can maintain it.
We got into this, that some of this 165,000 couldn't go to certain things. Are you saying this agreement, the 2026, that will be part of our budget, that we're funding an agreement? And do we know the money that goes into this partnership agreement is eligible for us to levy for? Or is that an unknown?
Right.
That, I talked to Chad about that, he was gonna check into that, because it is an unknown right now. Can we contract with, Lake Region or whoever to fund a paramedic, that's the deal.
Right.
And, right now, we don't have an answer for that, but we're checking into that.
But we would still keep our 165 commitment,
Yeah,
even if
right.
that is an unknown.
Yes, right, I would strongly suggest we do that,
Yeah.
For at least the next 2 years,
Right.
until this program ends.
Right. And what we can use it for still is our truck funds, right? We got
Right.
okay from the Attorney General
Yeah.
that the truck funds can come in.
Yeah.
You know, we've used some money for, graciously for Elbow Lake. Now Hoffman's ready, Ashby will be ready in years to come, but the whole thing of having a long-term plan. The problem is that I get scared was you five guys may change, right? If we don't have a good set plan, moving forward for the next 25 years, the next guys or next women that are sitting in your table, we have to re-educate and teach what we're seeing as EMS professionals and leaders of the community. And so to have something in place that has a ton of data and says, this is why we do it, that's what we want, how we want to budget moving forward to be successful. If we just kind of go by the wind and ask, okay, well, we need it this year and we don't need it this year, it's never gonna be successful in my opinion, is we have to have this robust plan for many years and then we gotta be able to shift and change if something doesn't work. Like our plan was, or my plan was, is maybe a pension plan. That didn't work, no big deal. Now we gotta move on to the next thing. We gotta push that away. We gotta be able to shift and conquer the issues that are gonna come, because there's gonna be more issues that come.
Mr. Chair, I got two questions that I don't really expect answers to, right now.
Right.
Will you be able to track uncompensated transportation? Not where we go currently and we don't transport. I'm talking about if we go into insurance being lost. Individuals aren't gonna go into the doctor as they should, now we have to transport, they don't have insurance, so. You send a bill and never.
Right.
So that's one, I mean, just tracking that in the future. The other one is we talked about spreading the cost out over a larger group, right? Just Ashby alone, 111 in Grant County, 150 outside of Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Are we subsidizing other counties' funds? And like I said, I'm not looking for an answer today.
Right.
It's just, if you look at, let's say there's a total of 1,000 runs.
Right.
All three services, but only 500 of them are Grant County. Are we doing 500 at $165?
Closer to 700 calls.
I'm using 1,000 because it's easier math.
Okay, yeah.
But are we now subsidizing $165 a run?
Mhm.
But half of those are outside of Grant County. Are we subsidizing other counties that should be paying? If we're spreading it out truly over everybody? And like I said, I don't need an answer today. I put it in your head.
Yeah, and we need to,
Okay.
it's just a work session,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be coming back. I mean, I think this is good, cause now the committee has go back
Right.
and formulate answers.
One question I'll ask next time.
Yeah, I got the answer already.
Is it, okay, but we'll be coming back with more information about this, because we feel pretty passionate that EMS is a critical service that the constituents of Grant County need. So we will definitely come back with more information. Today was just kind of the first.
Time and questions.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
After 9:04, we'll call meeting to order, stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Okay, is there anything to add to the agenda? Like there's a motion to approve the agenda,
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
get a second?
Second.
All in favor of the signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair, I got a couple things. It looks like there's some spell check that needs to go on in some of our bills. It says brains repair and central specialties. and things like that, I think if we're gonna put these on the record, which we have to, that we should probably have some of that taken care of. That's all I got.
We get a motion to approve the minutes with them.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chairman. Don't change it.
Second. Any more
With
discussion?
that, Bill, were you addressing any spelling errors in the minutes?
Yes,
Then Chad Van Santen spelled wrong also.
Oh, jeez.
okay. I didn't see that one.
Any more discussion on the minutes? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Warrants are also sent out.
There, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on any warrants? None. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Reed?
Alright, so what I have for you is the NRDG grant, which is a natural resources block grant through Bowser. And also it's basically money we get from DNR and PCA, so it's used to fund planning and zoning stuff, WACA. Water plan and septic systems, so. It's a 2-year agreement, so it'll be for 26 and 7. So what I'm looking from you guys is just the approval to have Doyle sign it, and send it back to the state, so they can keep the ball rolling. Yeah, just note that it is down about 20-ish grand, 25 grand from the 24 and 25 total. Which were expected, so got budget plan for that, but.
You're for a motion to approve this?
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions on this or discussion or? Don't say. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That.
All right, Commissioners, I have 3 items for you today. The first one I believe you've seen in the past. It's, City of Elbow Lake applying for an LRIP grant to, where is it, First Street Southwest, Second Avenue Northwest, over there by the city park, just on the north side for by the elevator there. We would have to get a project sponsor since they are under 5,000 population, which just means that we would kind of help oversee the project, and the funding, if they do get a grant, would run through the highway department. So all we'd be looking is for approval to sponsor their application for the LRIP grant.
And it is no cost to the county, we're just a sponsor.
We're just a sponsor, we're just a pass through agency.
And the max that they can drop from is $1.5 million, whether that happens or not. That's the max
Yep.
on this LRAP grant. I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion and a second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Second item I have is an engineering service agreement with Apex Engineering Group. This is for Kasai through Norcross, to go from pretty much the southern limits, south of 27, the northern limits, north of 27, right before the intersection there. Apex, we have talked with the city about their water main and their utilities, so they're fully aware of everything that we're planning to do down there. And we'll keep them in the loop as we move forward. For the most part, the work is gonna be fairly standard, mostly just rehabilitating, resurfacing, concrete curb and gutter. We do have to upgrade everything to meet current ADA standards. The one thing that is kind of questionable out there on the project is the current storm sewer situation down there. Don't have any existing records, of everything that's there. So that'll have to be some investigation to figure out what's all going down there. So that's kind of an unknown for me. That's something that they would have to work through. The total agreement here is for $141,500. That's actually typically when it comes to design, it's normally right around 10% of the anticipated construction costs. This comes in right around probably about 8%, so it's right in line with where it should be. I would anticipate that if we go forward with this, probably about 2027 would be when we target the construction of this project. So today I'd be looking for authorization for myself to enter into agreement with Apex Engineering Group based on this agreement in front of me.
Well, Matt, if you understood, if we enter into agreement that the unknown of the storm sewer will become a known,
Yes.
that gets addressed.
Yeah, that's addressed it.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
As a member of the highway committee, I will second that.
Motion and a second, any more discussion?
Yes, I got a couple. So again, you think that 141 will stay there? Or, some of the storm sewer that's, maybe there's catch basins in different parts of the town, if they got an assessment policy in place for anything such as that?
Since it would be for draining Kasai, there would be no assessment,
Right.
it would be a county cost.
Okay. Okay, but anything off of our eight, what I mean,
Anything
that's,
off,
they're responsible.
yeah,
right.
any, if they have any water main or storm sewer that they want to do repairs on in Kasai, that would be all their cost, and if they have other areas outside of our Kasai right away, they would like some work done on, that would be a cost to the city as well.
Any more discussion? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
Last item I have today is pretty straightforward. We awarded bids to Redstone Construction for the County Road 52 bridge here, I think 2 weeks ago. In front of you now is the contracts for construction of that project. We received it back from Redstone. So we'd be looking for the board chair to sign off on these contracts with the county attorney approval. So,
So moved. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
thank you, that's all I have.
I did expect that you did. I'll figure it out.
Holly?
Good morning. I'm here this morning looking for approval to set fees for the judicial security legislation that was passed this year at the legislature. My request is a fee of $75 for each, real property notice, consent to access, request to access, and consent to terminate, received under the statute. This was an address protection program built it is an address protection program, built specifically for the judiciary. So beginning January 1st of 2026, judicial officials, their spouse, domestic partner, or child can submit a request to our office to shield their records from the public record. So that's what that real property notice would be. The official would come in with a document to our office to request their information be shielded. There'll be a lot of extensive work that goes into this law because it allows all of the prior documents that have been recorded to be shielded. And then there'll be a lot of extensive work with the other county offices too, so we can comply with the statute. So the statute does allow us to charge up to $75, which is why I'm here to set the fee at $75 per notice.
So was this fee, this wasn't in effect before, right?
Pardon?
Was this fee in effect before or not?
No,
That's
it'll,
new.
yep, it's a
Yeah.
new fee.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Minnesota Nuclear Energy Alliance letter of support.
You're up, Joe.
well, Mr. Chair, yeah, would you like me to sit out there or should I sit here?
You're fine.
Reached out, actually, we got a letter from Sherburne County as well, and Tina's put it in your packet along with a letter that was sent to Grant County, and then the letter of support from the city of Emerald Lake as far as moving forward with, this nuclear power and repealing this moratorium that's clear across the state. And AMC, I brought it up at the last district meeting, and they kind of took a position where they were kind of on both sides of it. Well, now in our general government, we're moving forward. It's pretty much number one on our platform move. So we're gonna talk about this at a Zoom event coming up here. So I would entertain, just to shorten this thing up, I would entertain a motion to pass this and move forward with the rest of the counties and the states and the municipalities to move into a position to repeal the moratorium on nuclear.
So we don't have the resolution today. It was just the discussion piece and I could bring the resolution the next meeting.
Okay, so we can do that, sure.
I would support the goals of this. I read in here that this was actually, they're asking us to join the Minnesota Nuclear Alliance, and I'm not in favor of that. Supporting repealing this moratorium is one thing. Joining an alliance is something completely different.
You know, they'll end up with some type of fee, I'm sure, to be able to do all that, so I
If not today, there'll be one soon.
Yeah, I'm sure. We pay AMC's dues and things like that, so we'll use them as a lobbying effort, you know, moving forward. So,
So I would support the goals of this. I'm not in favor of joining an alliance. And again, I'm one person, so whatever the board wants to do, but that's my stance on it.
I kind of agree with Troy in that comment.
and I certainly don't have a problem with that. We'll use AMC because we pay those guys already, and we'll move forward with some of this general government committee, you know. at our
Oh, we
conference.
can have a resolution put together, that we support the goals. And vote and pass that, it's just we're not, my view is we shouldn't join an alliance. We can support what they're doing, but without joining.
Well, if that will get to the board here, then I will make that motion.
Well, we gotta have
Support
it
to go.
drawn up.
We gotta have it run up further.
Yeah, but,
Make a
Just-
motion to have.
okay, we can do it like that too. You can get it put together, put it on the next board meeting.
So the board consensus is to put together the resolution to support the goals of it, but not joining the alliance.
So are they asking in here to join the alliance?
Yeah,
I seen it, that's the way I took it, yes.
yes,
So more work to be done, and then we'll bring that resolution to the next board meeting.
yep. That'll work. It's baby steps, but that's okay.
So your motion, how do you want your motion to read?
I don't know if you need one.
Well, we don't need one today.
No, it's
Okay.
just more for information. I was just looking for, make sure that the city of Elm Lake was represented. But it can all go into one resolution. This is way bigger than just Grant County. And it needs to have some serious discretion because it sounds like the Democrats, I talked to Jordan Rasmussen about that, or Senator Rasmussen. And he said some of the Democrats down in the municipalities, down in the cities and things like that, they're not real on board with it quite yet. So they're moving forward. There is a House file 2002 to repeal it, and I talked to Backer about it because he called. So then he was a co-sponsor of it, so they're moving forward, but we'll just see. There is a Senate companion. So I'm sure it'll come up in our legislative conference coming up in February. Then there'll be more to follow.
So then that should, what Troy's saying there should.
We can join it, but we just don't.
Just say we support.
We're not given a seat on this board, and I'm not in favor of joining an entity that can change their position, and all of a sudden they can say, oh, Grant County's in favor of this, do they join our alliance? No.
Traditionally, when you do an alliance like that, a lot of times they'll come with, it'll be some type of a fee. An activity fee or registration fee or something like that, so it'll cost us money. And you never know, things could change where nothing comes of any of this.
Well, I think supporting the concept is better than going the stay in your lane route and saying nothing. We're supporting the concept. Yep. The goals.
Go ahead.
We'll wait a little longer, but.
Actually, they took the county, you know, this Taylor Skinner gave it Houston. So it ended up, they wanted to keep up my residents, and so they skated, you know, clear was waste, and then we skated the rest of the way. Yeah, I'm gonna put a lot of it, yeah, orchard, yeah. Megan, is there anybody on Zoom?
Hmm?
How many people?
Yeah.
Eating them well.
Okay, we're a couple minutes early, but we can go into the license bureau discussion.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Drew Bolio. I'm currently the owner of the Morris County Deputy Registrar's Office, commonly referred to as the License Center. And I submitted a proposal to you, a preliminary proposal, I guess, at this point, to take over the License Center in Grant County. And I'm just here to kind of answer any questions if you've read it over, or if you want me to expand on anything, I can do that as well.
We got a couple questions, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Okay, wife, my name, Paul Bunny. So, like, if we go this route, will the actual physical testing still be done in Grant County? You're behind the wheel with the,
I'm not involved in that. That would be through the state. I'm guessing they do the same thing here that they do in Morris, where they have people come out and do the testing here on site several times a month, like twice a month.
okay,
Is that what
so,
you're referring to?
so that's not with your program.
What we would be doing would be the driver's licenses, the title transfers, and then on the DNR side of things, both snowmobile, ATV licensing, transfer titles, et cetera, things like that. We do not get involved at all in that. The state won't allow us to do anything with that. So we don't do any of the testing, but we do all the paperwork that goes along with the licenses and titles.
Really come out and I'll do that. Okay.
Yeah, they do, but they would still need a separate place to do that, then you wouldn't provide those, that room or anything?
We would have no problem doing that. They bring us a lot of the business. Matter of fact, our busiest days in Morris County, at Morris, is when they do the testing, which is the second and fourth Friday. And then what they essentially do is they say, okay, everybody, you passed your test, go over there and get your permit. So that's a busy day for us. So they really don't do anything other than a place for people to wait until they take their testing. That would be the only thing. I would have no problem providing that if that was something they can do.
So more of a facilitator, you're saying?
Well, it's a place actually for people. We wouldn't do any of the scheduling. We wouldn't do any of that.
Yeah.
That's the testing, that's through the state. I can't see why they would change that. If they're currently on the schedule to do that, having a different place to do that shouldn't change what they're doing.
Yeah, that was my question, because we do understand that this license, process brings a lot of people into the county. They come from all over to come in here. They probably do in Stevens County too,
Exactly.
but we need this, here, and we need them coming in here and spending their money.
The testing is actually so backed up that people come from a long way away sometimes to do their testing.
So that was just my concerns. I didn't know exactly who set all that up, but now I do.
That is through the state, but again, it doesn't really matter. They actually use the community center, which is across the street from where my license center is in Morris. They don't even use our building, they don't have their own building. They use the senior center, community center for that.
And you would move right into the office spaces that's existing, or?
I was told that's not a possibility. If it is, I'd be more than open to it. Because I do have two other places that I'm going to look at today after this meeting.
And where is that?
One is,
I think you can say they're in Elbow Lake.
Dare Double Lake, yes, sorry, yes. One is an office space that's located in downtown that is currently vacant. And the other is an office building that's not too far away from Dave, who I currently rent from, and Morris also has a building up here. And so I'm gonna go look at that space as well. It sounds like that's not as good a space, but I'm gonna look at it and see what it is. If it's a possibility to stay here and pay rent, I'd be more inclined to do that. I was led to believe that wasn't really a possibility. I did pull the data for the financials from 2024, and the license center did have a negative balance of $54,000 during 2024, and that did not include any rent or utilities that would be added on top of that. So it's not money making at the moment, and most of that is due to the salaries that are in place. I have the ability to move my people up here to work some of the time and reduce some of the staffing that's here. So we would probably go from having 2 full-time people to 1.5 people. And what I would do is bring one person up from the Morris up here 1 or 2 days a week, and then also fill in for vacations, sick, whatever would have happened like that. So it puts me in kind of a good position to be able to make this happen.
Go ahead.
You anticipate, from a vision standpoint, this DMV processes, you hear about kiosks or just online. Do you envision many changes since you've been in it now for a while?
There's already been some changes that I've seen happen, and those kiosks are one of them, and those are mostly down in the Twin Cities area. If you had asked me that a few years ago, I would have said no, but I never thought I would be depositing a check with my phone either. So yes, there is a strong possibility that technology could come into play and do that. I really anticipate that they're gonna go another direction, that the business will actually increase, because there's a lot of talk of having titles for ATVs and snowmobiles, which hasn't been there. So that actually increase the amount of business that happens at these locations. One of the other things I would do is apply for a hunting and fishing license through the DNR as well, to have that available there. I would like to have credit cards available and possibly even doing passports. Now, those are not immediate things that would happen, but those are things I'd like to see happen. That's ways of increasing business, so.
How long have you been operating in Stevens County?
July.
Okay.
But I have a background. I actually came from the Department of Natural Resources. That's where I worked for a long time. And I started out in the boat, snowmobile, and ATV section. And I did titles and all that. This was back in college. And then I moved over to when they did electronic licensing. I'm sure most people remember when you used to have the carbon paper where you'd write and it turned over electronic licensing. That was me and the 3 other guys that did that. And then I became in charge of agent management, was working with every place that sells hunting and fishing licenses in the state of Minnesota. So I was in charge of agent management there for 8.5 years. I have a background in doing a lot of this, but I never owned one until recently because they don't come up for sale very often. I've been looking for quite a while.
So was this with Stevens County, I don't know, but was that a private person? you
Yes,
bought
it
it
was. I purchased it from a private person.
Okay. You know how long it's been private down there?
1980.
Okay.
Actually, it started in 1980. There was no before that. That was
You
David
know
Hay.
offhand how many counties in the state are privately owned?
No, I don't know. It's a small percentage, though, I can tell you that. Majority of them are run by cities. Even a county is a little bit unusual. The majority of them are run by cities. Yeah, we're number 42, and I think there's 100. I might be wrong. I think it's 123, but I might be wrong on my number on that are throughout the entire state.
From what I'm hearing, it sounds like Douglas County went to private and now they're back to public again, because they couldn't make it work over there.
It would take, for this to work, the salaries that are being paid would not be sustainable. With the payroll contributions, the health insurance, et cetera, and the wages, it would not work the way it is right now. So yes, it has to make some changes to make it work privately. And the private ones do work. I mean, we're doing quite well in Morris County, See that?
So why did Douglas go back to public?
I don't know. I don't know if they had somebody there that didn't know how to run it. I have no idea what the situation was. I did hear that, but I didn't know what the situation is. I tried to Google why, and I couldn't find anything.
Under the financial requirements section, you got the acquisition and establishment of. Within that, is there any? We'll use the word commitment. I can assume it's not gonna work, but if we commence to do the acquisition and establishment to you, where are we at down the line? Can you leave us high and dry?
No, we can put some language in there to effectively say that. I didn't think about that, but I have no intention of doing it. This is sort of my retirement job. I know that sounds like a bad thing to say when you're making a proposal, but this is what I want to do when I retire. This is what I'm intending to do and want to do, is to run these, possibly even getting some more, and do this. So this is something I actually enjoy doing. I have no promises that I'm doing it right now, but we can put that into the languages there if you want to. Like a so many year commitment, or we can put some kind of language in there, what would happen if it doesn't come, or if I pass away, or, you know, whatever would happen. Something like that. A contingency plan, how's that?
There you go, that's how it works.
I can tell you that things are going really well. Since I've taken over, I got rid of some problem employees. I've increased the wages. We have added some different features. And we're looking at adding quite a few more, all the ones that I just discussed with you a few minutes ago. And it's going very well.
And those people that you've added, they're the ones that gotta do the continuing education to keep that number alive and well, to go in and out of the system. And be able to operate.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by number?
Well, don't they have a certain number that they gotta, and basically, you know, some type of a license or something like that to get on that Department of Public Safety website?
There's a background, you have to do fingerprints and you have to go through a whole background check like that, and there's an education, you're right, that you have to go through. As a matter of fact, I'm going through a fraud training here coming up very soon, where you basically have to go and look at the titles and try to determine if they're fake or real, that kind of a thing. And then there's ongoing training that takes place along with it, that's more of a voluntary, but it's not really voluntary, because if you don't do it, you're not gonna be up to date on the things that are going on. So there's no certification per se, other than the background check that they have to go through. But I have really good employees, like great employees. It's a lot to learn. You know, there's a lot of good things. People think signing a title is very easy. You just go in, sign it, and out the door. It's not that easy. There's a lot of little nuances that come up that they have to learn about. Yeah, I've learned quite a bit even in the last 6 months.
You got the support of the county down there, and the people are using your service?
We've increased business quite a bit due to the fact that we had some employees down there that people didn't like. Now that we have really friendly employees and we've changed things, business has definitely increased. The financials over the last few years, even before I took over, were going quite a bit better. But they jumped up dramatically in the last 6 months or so. And we're out actively soliciting people that are maybe going somewhere else, to let them know what we're doing and how we're doing it.
I can tell you, I did a little research and what you just said is true. The people do like what you're doing down there.
Well, thank you.
Well, I'm glad you did some research, but I'll do the same.
Please,
I'll talk to commissioners and the general public down there about that.
yeah, come on down
Because
to,
I'm not a big fan of going anywhere other than what we're doing. I will be clear on that right now. It's been seamless forever. And it's gotta stay that way. And if it doesn't, we're all gonna get a black eye out of this, regardless if we vote for it or not.
I think the biggest reason to do this is financial, not necessarily the services, because it is a service I think we need to keep as well. But the finances on it, I mean, at a negative $54,000 a year is pretty substantial.
You figure it out, we got 6,000 people, divide that into 50,000, what is that? $3,
Yeah, hold on.
spend that gas driving somewhere.
Any other questions for me, or?
I gotta say what Bill said there is that people really enjoy coming here. Cause I was a sheriff up there, I was sitting in there for 22 years during the daytime, most of the time, and people would come in there from other counties and, always they stop and talk, some of them, they'd say how much they enjoy our license bureau, people are friendly. You know, they get things done, so I wouldn't want anything to change as far as, how people are greeted and taken care of when they come in to that office. It's very important. I don't know how many people come a year, but there's a lot of them. They come for everything. They brought their kids up through generations for testing and things like that, so it's a big deal, and it's worked well here, our service, so.
So I got a question to you. So you put in some analytics as far as the financials in relationship to costs. Are you able to access the number of transactions, business in a sense, and then how does that fit your model as far as staffing? Is it a very busy office or deal?
It's about half the size of what we are in Morris. And I don't have the number of transactions, but I do have the financial. You did $119,000 was your income based on your transaction fees that you received for doing that. So that's where you're at. You're bringing in 119,000, you spent 170,000. So that's where the numbers don't match up. So I can probably guess the number of transactions, but I can tell you what you did as far as profit goes.
So you could tell with 119 in ratio to the 250 or 40 you do in Morris.
Yeah, just shy of that, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody got anything else for him?
Well, I would hope, Mr. Chair, that this is just for information.
Yeah, I think, everybody need to do a little research if that's what they wanna do, and we can determine a outcome at a later time. Be my way of thinking.
Well, we don't have any resignations yet, so
We have a resignation. We have one that's done officially and honored before June first.
I don't know if that's correct.
We can go back and look in the minutes, but we accepted a resignation honored before June first.
Mr. Chair,
I'd have to look.
Well, there was a resignation. I don't know.
There wasn't a date. It was just the letter of intent. There wasn't a date. Are you sure?
We'll have to go back and look. I mean, obviously, we need to talk to Dawn. But I think there's other pieces for her, resignation from the county, but also like she has other people she needs to notify. And we need to sit down and talk to Dawn about this.
yeah, well, I was just gonna say from business planning, Drew's from his standpoint, at some point, it's kind of like the chicken and egg. If he's gonna do his additional due diligence and some of the things that we can look at, we almost gotta have a date where we kind of get off the, help me, you see what I'm saying
Yeah,
there?
I was just waiting.
Weigh in on that.
So it takes about 2 months to transfer the deputy registrar from one person to another. I've gone through it now, so I think maybe I can do it slightly less than that. But if it comes down to leasing spaces and build out things, there would have to be definitely some time, I would say at least 3 to 4 months to make something like that happen.
So by the first of the year type deal that,
I was given the June 1st date as well, on or before that date. So 3 to 4 months prior to whenever you think that might occur, that would be enough time to do that, because there would be training of people, et cetera, too. So, yeah, 3 to 4 months, 3 months at the minimum, make something happen. If anybody wants to go over the financials or wants to go over what I'm actually thinking and planning, I'm more than happy to talk to somebody at any time. I think I'm in a unique position of having staff that I can move up here. Somebody were to call in sick, go on vacation, et cetera, that puts me in a very unique position.
so Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate to put this in there? The strategic planning committee's wheelhouse as we move forward before it comes back, or what's your thoughts?
That'd be a good idea. I would say.
In my opinion, it should go in front of the full board again. We're talking about a department that's been in place for a long time.
Well, it would after we've done it, after the strategic plan.
Shouldn't, why do we need to have committee discussion, bring it in front of the board again? We got it, all our committee discussion right here, the way it looks. What do we need more committee discussion for?
A motion was made by Bill LaValle, seconded by Dwight Novotny, and carried to approve the retirement of John Johansson as of June 1st, 2026. The October 7th meeting.
So, and I hear what Bill's saying, but I guess whenever there's change, and it opens up opportunity. And our job, I think, in this leadership role is to look at the opportunities. And whether we do it through strategic planning or a complete board, that doesn't matter to me, and it's gonna be what it is, but to not look at the opportunities afforded us, I don't know that we're doing our job either, and so I think that's really important.
Mr. Johnson, I agree with you on that, only I lean toward support of our Grant County employees. If it was an open office and we were looking for other options and stuff like that, it'd be a whole different animal. But that ain't the case.
Well, they can take it to the next strategic planning board meeting and report back when they're done with that.
Could I make a suggestion, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I would say if we do that, then we should have another work session. Where we can discuss this like in a 30-minute time frame with the whole board.
Sure. Maybe instead of going to strategic planning, we should just do a work session.
Yeah.
After we do some.
I mean, do
Yeah,
That's what
I'd entertain that.
So would that be the second meeting in December?
I guess I'm not familiar, as this is only my 6 months of board meetings as a new coordinator, but isn't the second meeting in December pretty full? Or is it just setting the
the,
fun?
we can go into the afternoon, it's okay.
Okay,
We,
okay,
we can be here all day,
okay, whatever the board would, because I just didn't know if it was the second meeting. I know the January meeting is quite
And-
extensive.
truthfully, if we wanna have a meeting that we need we can have more than just the 2 meetings a month. I mean, it fits,
We have done that before. We've had a special meeting just to set the final budget. And it was the day before, I think, on the 29th, or thinking it was the 28th of December.
well, I'm not proposing moving that, I'm saying if this subject, we need to have a special meeting for this subject, well, let's do that. We don't have to limit it to a half an hour of the second meeting in December, we can have a meeting.
Wouldn't hurt to get some of the public here, because it's their service that Grant County's been providing for my whole life. And I am 63. So I've been in and out of that courthouse for at least 50 years.
Well, why don't we schedule a work session at 8:30 on December 16th? That's prior to our next meeting, and if it's better than more meetings.
16th would be our next meeting.
No, it's the second meeting in December. We're coming here anyway, so if we come here a half hour earlier,
Yeah, I agree, have that work session, and then if we need to, have a full hearing, then set one,
So the first or the second meeting.
second.
Second meeting.
We could do that in January, then, do if we wanna have another special meeting.
And we'll schedule a work meeting for the 16th at 8:30 and go from there. We got anything else for?
I got one more question I just thought of. So if we went this route, would you just have one employee up there most of the time?
About half the time. I would do 1.5 full-time employees, FTEs. I ran the numbers and that's what works. For it to be profitable.
I guess you said that earlier.
Yeah.
I think we should thank Drew for what he's put together and encourage him to continue to look at the opportunities in our county.
Thank you. And if anybody's interested, I have the financials for 22, 23, 24. I know you have access to those, but I have them anytime anyone wants to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Coordinator?
So I put in the packet the quotes. on The new phone system going with Voyant. We got 3 quotes that Morse Electronics together for the county. Voyant was the cheapest, was still all the same services. So you can see that we're currently, we discussed it at the department head meeting and we're currently, or I'm currently collecting the inventory, so we know exactly how many phones we have. But out of the three quotes, we're continuing to stay with the state, Voyant and Runestone. And Voyant was the one that, was the least amount of money, again, with all the same services, that we currently have. So Morse Electronics, is working on the backside with that, and like I said, as a county, we're doing an inventory of exactly how many phones. But you can see, what the quote was for that 69 phones, which is gonna be pretty close as the inventories come in, what we're looking at for what that would be. And the other thing we're working on is looking at doing an inventory of how many devices we have for, in the future, if the county decides to go with Microsoft 365 licenses. So we have an idea of what that cost would be for budgeting purposes, next year. So I just wanted to put those in the board packet and bring them up for your information, because they will, be expenses that, will be discussed in the future, so everyone could see kind of where we're at.
Tina, can you explain the will lose functionality with current phones? I mean, what,
So, where do you see that?
stay with the state, will lose?
Oh. Yes, because the phones are, with the state's new system, we'll have to change phones. Because otherwise we lose functionality with all the phones we currently have. So yeah, there is a call with Minute, who provides the state service coming up. Morse Electronics is gonna be on, to kind of talk with them again and see kind of where they're at, but a lot of other counties have gone away from using the state as their provider, simply for the cost. And so Voyant is a company that others have gone with.
And they all do Microsoft licensing.
That's separate, and I'm not sure what other counties do for Microsoft licensing. That is kind of based on where we're at now with current licenses and what's gonna be expiring.
Right.
And looking at the cost of, renewing those licenses compared to if we all go to 365. And then there's, Zoom licensing that is currently being paid for with 365. We have Teams as an option, so, it's a lot of information to digest and understand, because it's very complex, because there's different types of licenses, different types of apps, but Morse Electronics is leading, the research, for us, and, are familiar with it and giving us good guidance, and we talked about it at our department head meeting this last month, and, I think just getting it in front of everybody and everybody understanding that, if a change is made, there's gonna be a cost and what that cost might be.
I think it's really important that we try to keep the same phone number. We changed couple years ago, still kept the 685. I hate to see us go some, cause that's a big deal.
Yes, Morse Electronics is working with, Runestone. I know they have a good working relationship. We do, and the county does with Runestone, and if that's a possibility, that's obviously something we would like as well.
And Runestone is a co-op versus Voyant is not, correct? So I don't know, do we get capital credits and dividends from Runestone Telecom? Does Grant County? I've never asked that question.
I
I
guess
know, I
that-
just got the notice, they're paying out $2 million of stock.
Yeah,
You've got $2 million.
No, not me. I might get to 100.
oh, come on now. Tell me more than that.
So this is just, we don't need to make a motion, this is an update.
This is just an update. We talked about it at department head meeting. I just wanted to share with the whole board, what we got for quotes. And then, yeah, just no decision today. Nothing's final. It's just the information we have to date.
I think getting off the state system is important, how that works out, and today I can't say, I mean, obviously, we would rather stay with Runestone, but let's see what we get.
So, our Zoom events will work, I mean, if we're getting them from other people, right? I mean, we'll be teams here, but like,
Well, we're not making a change yet. This is just collecting the information to see if we decide to make the change. To go to Teams, but I am not a technology
If
expert.
another entity is using Zoom, you'll be able to log in just like normal,
that's,
you just want, Grant County would be hosting on Teams rather than Zoom.
correct.
If
That's
another entity's using Zoom, you wouldn't notice a change as just being a user.
And we would not pay for the Teams meeting application, correct?
If we went with 365. Yes, and Darren and Sean are willing to come and do a work session or be on the agenda and talk about things in more detail, but this is just FYI for your information. We talked about it at department head meeting. These are things that'll be coming up in 2026, so just wanted.
Well, Western Prairie's already done that transition to
Yep.
365.
Yep.
That's part of why Zoom is now considerably more expensive than it was prior, because we were splitting, yeah.
We got any more questions on that? Okay. Board committee updates. Budget, finance. Building committee,
We get a meeting the next Monday?
Port security. Tied to building committee, right, that's the one.
EMS, kind of went over that, I think. I got one little thing going through. Okay, Hoffman, of course, they're would like to order that ambulance as soon as they can. I guess when we set the preliminary budget in December, then we'll know either way, but you know, it takes several years to get it, and I think they're wanting to order it, right, Bill?
They're waiting in the wings just to
Yeah.
see where.
So we've been just telling them, you know, you gotta wait till we make the final decision, but it would be nice to get that going, but you know, December's almost here, so. There are, or I guess I wanted to know what your thoughts are on that, you know, are we, you know, consensus here that that's what we're gonna do, for the capital end of it? Or not, but that.
So you're asking about, let's just say the 165,000 for 2026. Is that gonna be in or out, or?
Yeah. Yeah, cause if it's out, then,
So that's not really a county budget. If you wanted to, otherwise I can, we'd go and ask Chad, but I think we should be able to approve that line in the budget at our next meeting. Then, I mean, cause you approve a budget, right? So we gotta go through, approve our budgets, and then what's left over is our levy. So if we've already approved that line, we just don't have to do it at the end of December, we've already done it.
yeah, then we could give them the go ahead.
And I don't know why that wouldn't work. I go and approve that line of the budget and just say, okay, well, we're done with this line, and we won't address that again at the end of the month.
So along that line, Dwight, what I heard was the 100 and then the program of 65. Right, but that's a little bit of an unknown, so would we be telling Hoffman they got 165 or 100? And the 65 is program?
What was discussed at the work session is for the future, that's not now.
Well, it is now, because if we're gonna tell Hoffman to get 100,000, it's a lot different than
No,
165.
So the conversation in the meeting was that the 165 is what you put in the budget. And down the road, when the Sprint Medic goes away, the 65 would peel off for that portion. But right now, that would help boost those capital purchases right off the bat. So it's not saying Hoffman's gonna get 165, it's just saying it would be in there for those capital.
We haven't allocated any money now, we've approved that number for a budget. It isn't allocating any amount to Hoffman or to Ashby or to, it's just approving that amount to go in.
It's not dedicated.
Let me go back to my comment. If Dwight and Bill go to Hoffman and say, go ahead, order your ambulance. We have X. Is it X 100 or is it Y 165? It is permanent.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean there, but I think if we tell them to order the ambulance, we levied last year for 165, we've got that. Then another 165 is coming if we leave that line item alone, so most of that probably would go to capital and see. And we wouldn't need that other 65,000 a year until we find out if that Sprint paramedic program is going away, and then, we can go from there. But yeah, if we give them the go ahead, then either we do it, in December 1st or the end. But yeah, we're saying, Hoffman, we're supporting you for 300,000. The 165 for last year, and then, so, yeah.
In the last meeting we had with the city down there, as you remember, Dwight, Janae was gonna get with their auditor to make sure that everything was above board and where we're headed with the revenue, and if they could be the receivership of that revenue. So that's the last that I got out of the city when we were down there, both Dwight and I were there, so it's. We gotta reach out to the city clerk too, to make sure that they've got to their audit people, where it can head and how it's all gonna work. So that's a piece that probably we should, Dwight and I will reach out, we'll get a confirmation on that for the next meeting. See where they're at.
I see what Troy's saying, though, if they were gonna leave that alone, yeah.
Well, I mean, if we approve that line item, then it's done, and they know that it's been approved, you wanna talk to Chad, I'm assuming you do it, you wanna talk to Chad about it.
I'll talk.
To them,
But I think we've discussed that a little bit, what you just said. But I'll ask.
if it is, let's just get it on the agenda for the first meeting in December, then otherwise, if you get to the end of the year, there may be, can't believe there will be, but there may be a rush on ambulance, right?
Yeah.
You get pushed back 6 months.
Well, then there might be a 4% increase, it's crazy.
Yeah,
But,
who knows?
what they cost, but,
They'd like to get their order in. Ryan Smith was talking about that,
no.
give us something plugged in there.
Okay, well, thank you.
Personnel committee, negotiations are ongoing. Ongoing. Highway committee,
Well, the County Road 52 bridge is gonna go in next spring, so, well, we already heard that.
Yep, we passed resolution.
Yeah, so, and then,
Norcross, WRID for Evelyn. Pretty much you heard everything that's happening.
Yeah, it's not 20 next year.
Oh, yeah. I think we brought that up the last meeting, I think. I remember. A lot of stuff going.
I got one question for Matt, if I can ask it. The bridge bonding, Matt, for next year, what's that looking like? Do you have any idea? We don't,
All the money they allocated previous session is already spoken for.
have so then, for 26, what about 27? Or you talk about that?
It should be a bonding year. Just don't know. It's been a haywire the past 5-6 years, so. Hopefully, we got a lot of bridges that we're gonna be finished up probably 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 bridges we're gonna have ready to go here in another year, within a year. So,
And everything gets held up because of the bridge bonding, because we can't afford to do it without it.
yeah,
And then
but that's every town.
the roads, the roads just keep. And I think if you drive in all the counties, they're in the same boat, I think, so. Yeah.
Public safety,
I met with Jen last Friday and she was gonna get the contract out to the cities.
solid waste,
Reed's continuing to work through the process and. Anything new, is there?
I wasn't at that meeting the last time I was in negotiations.
Good one,
strategic planning,
So I was asked by the public if there can be public members on the strategic planning committee. And what I said is I don't know, I'll have to ask the board what they think. I mean, we would follow the process we have laid out where there'd be notification that there's openings to be on a committee and follow the application process and then the board would appoint. So the question, well, there's a couple of questions in there. One is, are we gonna have the public on strategic planning? If the answer to that is yes, then how many spots do we have? I would say like 2 to 3 spots, and then you would, make them like a 3-year commitment, but you would stagger that first appointment like a 1, 2, and 3 year. But that is my thoughts on it. We need the board to decide if that's something we want to do.
So that would be a per diem paid position.
Yeah, I would assume they would get, I mean, they're a committee appointed.
That'd be no different than any other committee.
Right.
One of the advantages is that it also potentially opens up some training or exposure if one of those members are interested in being on the board at a later date, this board. So it does give you some sense that get their toes in the water a little bit, and that'd be a benefit.
Well, just including people in their government is,
It's a good idea.
I don't have no problem.
so I don't know that we need a motion today. I mean, a consensus, if we're okay with that, we can have Tina start that process of adding. I mean, we can decide how many later, but if we wanna wait and make that decision in 2 weeks or whenever we meet again. I would think we'd wanna try to get it so that we could have them come in January. The other committee.
So that would be up to the board chair here. You're the board chair next time.
Yeah.
So. Only you're following your lap.
Yeah, we can do that.
So the first step would be to put a notice in the paper.
Well, we would follow, we've got a process, whatever that process says. I think that's it, put a notice in the paper, put it on social media that we will, be looking for community. I mean, we can decide if it's 2 or 3 or whatever, somewhere in December, but we might as well let people get started with the application process if we're thinking we're gonna do that.
So do we need a motion to do that right now?
I don't think, because we're not officially adding anybody at this point, so I think just that,
Tina could go through that process.
I think she can just start the process, because we're,
The first step is posting it in the
Right.
paper for 2 weeks. And then,
there's no decision being made or anything.
No.
any other questions on that? Strategic plan, because then we had, the assessor come and he wants to reorganize his, there's been a retirement. End of the year, so he wants to reorganize his office. Currently, there is a assessor, a deputy assessor, and then two appraisers, if I remember correctly. And he would like to go, we met with strategic planning and we kind of agreed he would like to go to the assessor, deputy assessor, one appraiser, and then a technician. So there's no new people, there's really no, the duties have been changed from job description to job description to fit how the office runs today, because it was, when we went to a true county, we just added an appraiser, we didn't really reorganize. So there's, again, that's an informational, there'll be, when the new job descriptions come back, they'll come here for approval and.
So
When
what
is
would
that
that,
time?
oh, excuse me.
Believe that retirement is the end of the year. What was the question, Bill?
What was that, what would that role that technician would, how would that perform? In the level of, you know, what is he gonna just stay in the office, or is it somebody that goes out in the field, or? What
So
would
it
that
wouldn't be-
technician do?
Right, it wouldn't be the appraiser. Carl would have, and Carl will be here in 2 weeks. I mean, that's a good question. I didn't. It's more of the office, it's the data entry. You know, the appraiser would go out and collect the data, and the technician would be more the entry.
Okay, so,
So it doesn't have the licensing that the appraiser or the new deputy would have to have that appraiser
right,
duty. This would not have those duties.
so it'd be more just office staff.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that?
Nope.
Verizon?
Well, just the same stuff, you know, they're working on grants to fund that operation. They were talking a little bit about the measles, you know, measles outbreak here and there. Like that.
Western Prairie?
I think finance committee meets this week, don't they?
Yes.
But I believe so.
I don't know what else I know.
We had a technology committee meeting.
Yeah.
We talked about this phone system and things like that, so we're moving forward with that. The Traverse and getting the connectability in place. The phone systems and. Just moving forward with. Them merging into. Western Prairies. And their employees.
Anybody got anything else for? The good or bad of Grant County? We'll adjourn the meeting at 10:20.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Will, thank you, Chair. So Gina, would you suggest I go talk to Ashley about my computer now?
Yes.
They have new RSA's there. You can bring up computer.
Well, so I got my new RFA,
Is that one of the staff is missing, Tina?
so we're gonna have to.
The numbers?